Well, I just got back from seeing 2024 Civil War, and some of the discourse is already pissing me off. Let's get into it. This has been one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I've been so excited to see what they do with this premise because honestly, it couldn't come at a better time. A lot of people argue that it's not the right time. We have a very contentious election coming up. There's a lot of political polarization going on in the country. So maybe some people would argue that when you're trying to make a movie for escapism, making it so close to a reality and almost the next natural step in the way that things are going is just a bad idea, in poor taste, even kind of dangerous. I would argue the opposite. I think that art is a way of expressing our fears that are very realistic, especially when things seem like they could go this way. I think that we need to show the realistic consequences of what happens from polarization on this level, and this movie shows it in spades. But a particular part of the conversation that annoys me to my very core is people whining that it doesn't pick a side. What's so annoying about that to me is that it almost seems like people want to be pandered to. They just want their political opinions reinforced back to them instead of giving what the movie showed you and interpreting it on your own. I had a really interesting and robust conversation in the car with my dad about this movie. We were arguing about, was the president supposed to be Trump? Was this supposed to be that? What do these sides believe in? What's supposed to be going on here? What started this? Was this a large insurrection on a mass level? Who was in the right here even? Because the thing is it drops you in a political context where you really don't get any of that. You don't know what either side believes in. You don't know what they're politically oriented towards. You know that maybe the president is, potentially a theocratic fascist. You know that he drone strikes American civilians. But beyond that, you really don't know anything. And to a certain degree, I found a little bit of frustration in that. I was kind of grasping at straws, trying to draw political parallels, trying to figure things out. I kind of wanted a little bit more context and, understand the world that they're operating in, the ideology that these different sides kind of abide by. But I think overall it was smart not to do that because it would have ultimately taken away from the message. At the end of the day, the movie, the basic message is war is bad. I know that sounds like such a normie take, but nowadays kind of to some degree isn't. But I will say the message is a little bit deeper layered than just war is bad, it's obvious, nobody likes war. But it shows the consequences of dehumanization, how shocking, how sudden, and honestly just the imagery alone is enough to show you just how bad and ugly war really is, and it should be enough to cause a lot of hesitancy when you're continuing to push the line towards polarization. Things escalate, heat up, and then that bubble's eventually going to pop and something's going to happen. And this movie tries to kind of deliver the message that maybe you should take a step back and let level heads kind of prevail. To a certain degree, it shows just how insane the fighting gets to the point where there really is no point. People shoot at each other just because they shot first. They don't understand. People are scared, defensive, and it creates so much distrust that it creates even more violence. Violence begets violence, and it never ends in any kind of way that is helpful to anybody. And the movie really is scary because they portray it in such a realistic manner, but it almost seems like nobody wanted any of that. And what frustrates me too about it is it's like, well, what did you want? Propaganda? The movie actually trusts its audience to draw its own conclusions, let the audience members interpret it in their own way. It's almost like a Rorschach test. It allows you to think, stew on what this movie's really about, what it's going for, and then kind of just take away the message, unpack it, and kind of assess your own biases. The worst thing that this movie could have done is just preach at the audience. That's what, at one point when I didn't really exactly know, I was afraid that it would be. And although I engage with political material, I'm always very interested in stuff like that, but I think that the dumbest possible version of this movie is the version that just says, rah rah rah, this side's good, this side's bad, they're the good guys, we're the bad guys, we win. It feels like almost there is no clear good guy or bad guy. There's no clear winner or loser. There's just kind of war. There's just kind of a result. That's it. And I think that portrayal of it was way more impactful because it allows you to, like I said, draw your own conclusions. It doesn't tell you how to think, which is a good thing, but it seems like all these people that wanted that just wanted to be spoon-fed. That's what I found so frustrating about Grace Randolph's review. It just feels like she needs this movie to reinforce her own beliefs instead of just letting the movie be and letting the movie tell a story, show just a very harrowing journey, and then leave it up to you to do with that message what you want. I get frustrated when I feel like artists can't trust their audiences to disseminate information or the message in a way that is helpful. That's what frustrated me when there was a lot of discourse around the Joker. Joker is a social commentary. It's not a rallying cry or a political message. It's just a real in-depth study about how people like this are created. And that's what made it so impactful. And this is what makes this movie so impactful. It shows how through the process of war we get so busy and in the dirt fighting that we don't stop to think about how the people on the other end are also humans. I know that sounds really dumb to say because obviously it's so fucking simple, but it doesn't come across as dumb or just a normie thing in this movie because it's shown in a way where you could see why these people get lost in this conflict, why they end up shooting at completely random people. There's a hair trigger. Tensions are so high. There's so much uncertainty, and you can't honestly trust anybody around you. The consequences are so big. Consequences of being caught are so high that for the most part, everybody's just afraid and desperate. And it's shocking how they kind of frame the idea of this coup on the president because it feels like the Western alliances, they almost treat this operation like they're taking in Osama bin Laden. That frame of mind with something so familiar is just really shocking to me. It hits so home. I found it just so utterly impactful, effective. And I don't really understand why anybody else would want this other, dumber version of this movie. And that's what I think is so annoying about this discourse is that they don't want that. They don't want complexity. They don't want nuance. They just want the director to pick a side and tell us what we already believe. I don't want that. I think that they were smart to avoid that. And also, too, another risk that you have that is that you date yourself with things like that. Yeah, this is a very topical movie, but when you bring in issues that are so topical, relevant, things like that, if you just spew out talking points, you're at the risk of dating this movie almost instantly. So obviously I think this movie made the wise choice in kind of reframing from that and having basically a universal, timeless message, but through the lens that it piggybacks off of what is going on. This obviously feels like a very real possibility right now with everything going on, but it doesn't feel like it tells that in really a stupid way. And I know that everybody likes to say with movies like that, oh, it's prophetic, it feels like it's telling the future. Not really. And, I think Alex Garland himself will tell you that. Because it's not prophetic, he's just taking what's going on, all the polarization, all of the different partisan politics and all the hacks, everybody, and just taking it to the next step. The next natural part of where conflicts like this lead to. What's been proven through history, what could be proven again from what we've seen, what will happen. And that's what this movie does best. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'd love to hear. What are your thoughts on the movie Civil War? Has this discourse also annoyed the shit out of you? Let me know. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.